The way that we say it in recovery is like, your rock bottom is when you decide to stop digging. So it's like when you finally decide that, like, your hands are bloody enough, like your knuckle bones are showing, like you're covered in sweat, piss, shit, and dirt. You know, your eye is fucking swollen shut because there's just rocks in it. And your shovel is broken and it's rusty and like you got fucking, you need a tetanus shot, you know, you stabbed through your foot, and it's just, it's just too much to keep digging. That's when you've hit your rock bottom.
So rock bottom with depression is the easy one to identify. The physical symptom that I was suffering when I was going through it and not knowing what it was. I mean, that was scary. That was debilitating. And so that one is easy to identify. The anxious one, it's difficult to find a rock bottom of anxious when you've had as many anxiety attacks and literal panic attacks that I've had.
So I have my young version of the rock bottom, then I have my adult version, or this current version of the rock bottom. And for me right now, I think I might be in one of the worst depressions, or worst dysthymia, worst PTSDs, I don't know. But I think I might be in one of the worst episodes I had in my adult life.
Yeah, I've just been depressed as fuck. And it's manifesting in me just not wanting to do a fucking thing. Not wanting to shower. Not wanting to do a dish. It's kind of paralyzing.
I get really upset at myself because it's like, why are you doing so well? And all of a sudden, just 180s. You know, I get so frustrated at that because it's like, I feel like I'm going up higher and higher, and then before you know it, it's like I'm not taking steps backwards. No, I'm jumping straight back down to the bottom, and I get so mad at myself because it's like, you're doing so well.
You know, it's like when I'm triggered or I'm activated or I'm revved up or something in the present is touching something very old and painful. Like I'll call that, I'm post-traumatically stressed because it is different, and it usually requires different skills for me to get unstressed from that kind of stress than just normal stress.
You know, my mom dying was obviously a huge bottom, and that was the bottom for me that I wanted to stop. You know, I needed to stop trying to kill myself because I spent my whole life trying to kill myself. She spent her whole life trying to keep me alive. And then vice versa happens, and I couldn't keep her alive, but now I decided I have to stop trying to end my life because she's not here anymore to fucking save me. And then when I woke up from that heroin overdose, I realized that doing drugs and drinking was me trying to kill myself.
My first year in high school, I was so depressed I gained 60 pounds in 1 year. And later on, I would lose the weight, then gain the weight. So at this point, I had lost a significant amount of weight, and I felt really good about myself. And I actually kept it going until last year. Growing up, you know, when I was able to eat at my grandparents' house, like, despite the struggles and everything, like, they were the only ones that really brought happiness to me. And so it's like, and my grandmother, she would cook amazing food. She was an amazing cook. And so it's like, of course, if you're having really yummy food and then it's like grouped with people that brought you so much joy, it's like, it's not the same food though, but I guess just the feeling of fullness like stomach wise, but fullness like happiness or emotion like wise, it's like feeling full. And yeah, there's just this emptiness that I feel that I'm trying to fill, but at the same time, I don't have the energy to do it any other way but to eat, and it's just such a pain in the butt.
In the beginning, the diagnosis felt like a negative and a label and like something's wrong with me. I think over time, I just came to understand this is why my nervous system doesn't work like other people's nervous systems work. And then I became interested in understanding, what did people get that didn't have this? And I want that. You know, like whatever people got, I'll get it now. You know, like, and if it's possible to get now, I'll get it now. So that became motivating. And especially I became a parent when I was 36. And then it's like, oh, you know, I have a lot to learn if I'm going to provide attachment style parenting, and I never had it. There was so much learning to do, but that learning, you know, was occasionally painful. I'm not going to say it was all easy, but it was. I mean, it's so rewarding because once you learn it, you have it forever.
So having my mind, this lovely, beautiful mind, it has its downs. And do know, I wish that there was a pill that can, if I had the ability to take it and instantly everything would go away, I would for real take that in a heartbeat. But as you know, there's nothing like that here. There is no magic pill. There is no instant 180 transformation. But there is guidance to get better, to be better than what you are.
In my 20s, it was ego. It was, I'm intelligent on paper. Why can I solve this? Why can't I crush this with my mind? You've got to educate yourself about this stuff that you don't understand. And that can be a very tall order. It was an extremely tall order for me. And now I can't stop asking for help. because I see the value in it, because I see that other people can help make me better.
The beautiful part of, you know, my first hospitalization was I was assigned to the therapist that I still have today. We've been together for over 10 years. And the same thing with my psychopharmacologist. It's been over 10 years. And so I've been given this insane opportunity to have the same two providers for so long.
In the game of tennis, if you watch the greats, you'll see them glance off over to their player's box, and there may be 14 people in there, and each one of those individuals is responsible for one facet of that player's life. It could be nutrition, it could be strength, it could be strategy. You have to have a rock solid player's box. For me, as I mentioned, I mean, it starts with my wife, of course. Like she, God love her, but it starts with not just being honest with yourself, but being honest with those that are directly around you that can help you. That was a very tall ask for me to be able to ask for help. And not only that I need help with talk therapy, not only do I need help with pharmaceutical, but I need help learning how to talk to people. I need help building messages. I need help at things I thought I was extremely proficient at. And that's what my turning point was, is when I really committed to building this player's box. When I committed to, this was not going to be my son's tomorrow. He's not going to be my age with a giant question mark over his head. He's going to know exactly what it is, and he's going to have a tool set to face it. I was fortunate enough to have resources and people and access, little things like that so many of us take for granted that other folks don't have access to.
I remember when I was doing therapy 15, 16 years ago, how much it just lifted a weight from me, and I wanted to revisit that as an adult. It's been tough because the insurance that I've got is Medicare, because I'm on Social Security disability, and I could not find any therapists that would accept Medicare. The one that I'm going to right now doesn't accept Medicare, so I'm paying out of pocket every time I go. But I always felt lifted. My spirits felt lifted after these psychology therapy sessions. It's just talking about this stuff can be so helpful. It's amazing.
That's something I learned like really young is just like dive headfirst like into everything. And it's probably going to get worse before it gets better, but it's so much more beneficial than pretending like everything is better and one day just fucking exploding and realizing that nothing has ever been good, and you've been trying to swallow all this pain for so long until like the lump in your throat is so big you fucking choke, you know?
Even though I wasn't grateful for what happened to me, I was grateful for learning about it, and then I was grateful for sharing it with other people too. And then I wanted more survivors speaking. I wanted to speak to other survivors, you know, so I joined a women's studies group, and I joined an incest survivors group, and I didn't just want to be, go to therapy and be like in a therapy chair, knowing that like 40 other people were probably in that same seat that same week, but I couldn't talk to those other 40 people. Like I wanted to talk to the other 40 people, not just the therapist. So as much as therapy helped, I was like, what are other people saying? What are other people doing? What are other people experiencing? Like where do we find each other? So, you know, like that is where I think the internet became powerful for a lot of survivors, because we could find each other online. We could, you know, share writing. So I have no shame about it and this identity. So I would share it more openly and write about it and write about healing from it and writing about what was hard. And then people would write in and comment, and people were relieved that somebody was saying, yeah, this is hard, or this is complicated, or this makes life difficult. Like it wasn't the, here's how much I've healed and I'm, you know, now all over my past, you know, like that wasn't the thing that got responses. What got responses was like, this is hard. This is challenging. I wish people talked about it more. I wish there was more support. Those kind of articles. So then I realized, wow, people just want someone to tell the truth. You know, we don't need a happy ending.
There's this inherent need to be so fucking happy about life that people think that you need to be happy. And that's just so false. I think that's just that biggest thing. It's just like an overall about like mental illness. It's like, you don't need to be happy all the time, or even you don't need to be positive to be working on yourself.
One of the things that I've done is to, at the end of the day, list all the good things that happen. So that's kind of my version of trying to maintain gratitude, because I can easily focus on all the negative, but every night I'll just be like, okay, well, and it's something that's like very, it's nothing, but at least I put it. So if it's like, oh, I worked out, or I watched a funny TV show, or I relaxed, or I went out and ran this errand.
The coping strategies for me was definitely music. Music was my definite tool. Hearing those kind of waves and everything going up and down inside my head, I'm like, okay, you know, I can drown out whatever's coming inside my head. And then I would tune in and listen to every single word, so I don't have to listen to whatever the voices were trying to tell me to.
Like, meditation has been a profound, simple tool it is kind of like a reset. I can be feeling so tense, and after 20 minutes of doing this very simple practice, it feels like a weight has been lifted from me.
My first tattoo is right here. It's a memento mori. I heard this at one of my church leaders. He had a lesson, which is called memento mori. It's the translation of remember of your mortality. When I was younger, and I still struggle with this here and there, is I used to self-mutilate. I used to, do self-harm. And so my scars are on my arm, and of understanding of as I transition to recovery to get better, I want to remember your mortality, remember you will die. And so I was like, I want something else too, to be a little bit more positive. So I have memento vivere, which is, remember to live. This one says carpe noctem. Last is not least is carpe diem. I do this little patty cake sometimes where it's just like, so I can be like, at first it's like helps me get to my senses back. So if I'm going through things, the sentence, remember you will die, remember your mortality, so remember to live while seizing the day, while seizing the night.
3.5 years ago, I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. I definitely have struggled with the diagnosis. I will say that I am so glad I did all the healing that I did, though, because I have so many tools of guided imagery, writing, and support groups. I have so many friends and so many people in my life that believe in storytelling and truth-telling that I can be completely honest and real with. So it's unimaginable to me what state I would be in if I was still in crisis from post-traumatic stress, because you have so many doctor's appointments. So knowing how to advocate for myself, knowing how to speak up for myself, knowing if I'm triggered, I can bring somebody to an appointment with me. Ultimately, it makes me hopeful that someday we'll respond to mental health stuff and understand that the same rallying around people, offering extra love and care, offering to be present, offering to give rides to therapy, offering support to people is going to help, because it's the only thing that carries you through, that makes the pain and feeling unwell bearable.
It's going to be difficult if you don't get help. It's going to be difficult if you try to white knuckle it and do it on your own. It gets better. It gets better, and you don't have to do it alone. I think those are the most powerful messages that I wish I would have heard as little Jacob.
I wish that when I was a kid, like when I was 15, that I had somebody come up and share their story. You know how much of a relief I would have had, especially if I was a young me and I saw older me, a big black African American man standing there and talking about his story while he's going through, and see that like, hey, I'm going through the exact same thing this guy's going through. I would probably be in a better place.
I mean, my hope is to be at peace within myself. I think that, like, if you forget everything, like money or material things or anything like that, as long as I'm at peace within myself, I think that's the hope. And so just to be okay with who I am and where I am, and just seeing what the possibilities are. And I guess also just the whole mindfulness thing, where it's like just being in one place and being centered, or just being aware of where you are right now and just letting it be what it is. I think that's the hope, and what I hope for everyone, honestly.
I just remain so hopeful, I don't know how, that this physical state that I'm in is impermanent and that I will see better days physically, not necessarily worse days. This is just a long, rough time I'm having, but better days are ahead.
Better to me is really being engaged and being present with what's going on in my life rather than what's going to happen tomorrow. There's so much noise that can distract us. If you're living fixed, there's so much noise. So living unfixed, it's amplified.
I want to write. I want to act. I want to sing. I want to do all those things, and I just want to make something that changes the way people see things. Like, I really fucking hope that I, like, find it in me to put myself out there so that I can actually do the things that I know that I'm capable of. But I'm afraid to reach everything I've ever wanted. Because then what? And that's kind of what stops me. So hopefully one day I'll just be able to do for me what my mom did for me, which was like, just believe in me.
Your core collects and it dissects the bona fide, 'cause you play fetch with neglect till all collides. Self-prescribed formaldehyde, it pastes the edge, but when your tight-eyed hearted child mind disconnect, oh, it's a stretch to try again.